Yeah. Family, y'all. Just keep it tight, keep it tight, keep it tight. Oh, right. Yeah. Here we go.
The book that we're using for this course is written by John Missoni, Ethics, the Basics. At the end of class, we'll see how many want a copy of this book to be reading between classes. And what Missoni says in his book is that there are several questions that this study of ethics raises. Since this course is on ethics, what are some of the questions, when we're talking about this moral philosophy, what are some of the questions raised by this philosophy that you know of as ethics? Some of those questions are questions like, are there ethical standards? And if so, where do they come from? Are there standards that we should all act in the same way in this room? And if so, where do those come from? For instance, I notice there are a lot of quiet people here in this room. They're like listening respectfully. Why are you doing that? Where did that come from? Somehow, someone told us at some point in our life to be respectful. It's sort of like there's a standard of respect. Interesting. So are there ethical standards, and if so, where did they come from? How it is that we should act? Where do those come from? Do they come from God or religion? Right? God says we should do certain things. Love your neighbor. Love God. Honor the Sabbath. Wait a minute. What about those other things that God says that you're not following? Follow me? Things like, thou shalt not eat pepperoni pizza. We talked about some of these things. Thou shalt not eat shrimp or catfish or lobster. All that's in the Bible. Thou shalt not wear cotton poly lens. Thou shalt not play football. All that's in the Bible. Not in those words. Okay? God says some things and you follow it. God says other things and you don't follow it. What gives there? Follow me? You just pick and choose what you're going to follow? So do those standards come from God and or religion? Do they come from society? Do they come from logic and rationality? Which is why most biblical scholars, when they take a look at those books of the Bible, what's the conclusion of many? That these were written by concrete people in certain societies who, for them, that was the thing. Thou shalt not eat pork. Don't eat pork. That was their rule in that society at that time. Any of us still follow that? Any of us say, oh, I can't eat pork because it's in the Bible. The Bible says I can't eat pork. Those pork carnitas look really good. Pork chops, whatever it is you're eating this pork. Bible, thank you for offering, but I can't eat that. The Bible says I can't eat that. Where do our own ethical standards come from? Do we learn them from others, or are they written in our hearts? We began this class by someone suggesting that maybe as children we're born sort of like a blank slate, a tabula rasa, and then later we learn things from others? Or are there certain things that we carry within our hearts? If ethical standards come from the society or from one's heart, the question is, are they relative? Relative is going to be a word that we use quite frequently throughout this evening, because what does it mean that something is relative? It depends. There are two different words that we use. One is relative. Relative means it depends, and it changes from one person to another. And the other is universal. Universal means what? That it's shared by everyone. So we're going to come up with a universal rule. That means that everyone has to follow it all the time. Follow me? We're going to come up with a universal rule. It has to be followed by everyone all the time. Relative means, well, it depends. Is lying wrong? If you say lying is always wrong, that's a universal statement. Don't ever lie. Lying is wrong. Lying, well, it depends. That makes it relative. Do ethical standards apply to non-civilized societies? We'll come back to that with some concrete examples in a moment. Essentially, the question is, if there are some societies that do things because they don't know or they don't believe that it's wrong. You follow me? So that, for instance, let's think a century ago. A century ago, a gentleman in his 30s could marry a 14-year-old girl, and no one would have thought anything about it. You follow me? What is a quinceañera? What is a quinceañera in Hispanic culture? A girl is now 15. She's now an adult. Why do we have a debutante ball? So that we can show all the possible suitors to our 15-year-old. Ooh, have we thought about that cultural tradition before?
I don't like that.
So think about it. What is no longer acceptable as a society before was acceptable. Before it was acceptable to marry off your 15-year-old daughter because she's going to be a burden. She's going to be a burden if you have to support her. Why not give a few ducks and chickens and pigs as a dowry to be able to marry her off? Yikes. Did you see how our views on these things change? So was it wrong before to do that? Before we didn't think it was wrong. Now we think that you have to be 18 years old in order to be married. I see various faces which lead me to believe there could be questions.
Even in religion, today I was just questioning on the computer, like, when did they stop the Catholic Church? I remember if a person committed suicide, they would not have a service at the church. It took until 1983 to say it's okay.
So that's an excellent example, because before we thought that that was wrong and evil and that person was going to hell. If you committed suicide, that is wrong. What do we say about that today? If a person commits suicide, does that mean that that was an evil, terrible person who's going to hell? How could we believe that before? Because don't we believe in a merciful God? If someone's life circumstances drove him or her to do something that terrible, there had to have been something happening in that person's life. For us to judge that person so harshly, that poor person must have felt so hopeless in that situation, must have felt hopeless. So how is it we've changed our view on issues like that?
I remember growing up and hearing that too.
I remember families that couldn't have a service because of that.
How it is that different things change over time. The question that I was asked on Sunday was about cremation. Father, what does the Catholic Church say about cremation? Since the 1980s and 90s, the U.S. Catholic bishops have said cremation is an alternative. But the challenge is, it challenges the way that we're accustomed to thinking of it, because we've thought about, when you die, you need to be buried in a certain way. Different people tell us certain things, and that's what we come to believe. So to go from thinking one thing to thinking another thing takes a shift.
Did that change with the popes coming in, the different popes? Our way of thinking? Or we still...
Popes do often change the way that we think about certain things, which is fascinating. What's the change that's going on right now with Pope Francis about married persons or persons who are living with another person and living in sin? Essentially, that's the Pope Francis's question. Are two people who love one another and who maybe have been married before, whatever their situation in life is, are they necessarily living in sin, or is there a different way of thinking about this? Right? So ethics raises questions like this. So if something is right today, or is wrong today, going back to the example of the quinceañera, it's wrong to marry off your 16-year-old daughter. She's not an adult yet. Okay? Many people believe that's wrong today. 100 years ago, it wasn't wrong. So the question becomes, was it wrong back then or not? Was it okay back then or was it wrong? Because all of us in the room did it and we didn't think it was wrong.
But doesn't that have like a more political aspect
Say more.
than a religious aspect? Because nowadays, due to the political, it's against the law to even see someone under the age of 17. Not necessarily on the theological thing, but it's more political than the government.
How interesting, how political and legal then as a result. What we do is we create laws saying if you are 20 years old and you have a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old, that you've broken a law. That's illegal. You can't do that. How interesting. We say what's right or wrong, what's legal or not legal. Same-sex marriage, the hot button issue this year in the legislature at the federal level, right? The Supreme Court's going to take up the issue. Is same-sex marriage wrong or not? And it's going to be interesting because there are different people who are weighing on it in different ways. The Roman Catholic Church, what has the Roman Church always said? It is wrong. What is U.S. mainstream society saying? It doesn't seem so much. Other examples would be birth control. How much of us, since 1968, 1969, right, the whole issue with birth control is evil. The Roman Church has historically said that. 98% of sexually active Roman Catholic women are using birth control. There's a disconnect here. Is it right or is it wrong? If it's wrong, maybe someone should tell the 98% of women who are doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Are humans selfish? Ooh, how's this for a question in ethics? Are humans selfish, acting only out of their self-benefit? I hate to pick on Deacon Roy, I really do, because he seems like such a holy person. But you know what? Selfish. He's just thinking about one thing, and that is getting to heaven himself. It's convenient that he's sort of, okay, I'll take it off of you, Deacon Roy. I'll put it on to Father Jamie. Father Jamie seems like such a nice guy, but he's just doing it to get into heaven. He's doing it for himself. So even though he's nice and doing all these, wait, follow me? Ethics is about questioning why it is that we do the things that we do. Because sometimes the motives that cause us to do things may not be entirely pure. Yes, I'm helping you, but I'm really helping myself because I'm helping you in order to get to heaven. You're the means for me to get to heaven. So are humans selfish, acting only to benefit others? When they help others, are they really motivated by genuine concern, by love? Are they calculating their own need for help in the future? Well, I'll help them because if I were in that situation, I would want people to help me too. Are they trying to win heaven or to win God's favor? Other questions in ethics: what makes something right or wrong? How should you live your life? What counts as a life well lived? Wouldn't you like at the end of your life to be able to say you lived a good life? Okay, then what does that mean? It seems today you have to start living that life to be able to, when you die, to be able to say you lived a good life. Is ethics about fulfilling one's responsibility or duty? Or is ethics about being happy? Making other people happy? If so, what is happiness? And can we really achieve happiness? Ethics raises all of these questions. And then how is ethics informed by religion, science, society, rationality? I'm just opening the box just a little for us to peek inside. Are we getting an idea of some of the questions that ethics asks? So during the next 3 weeks, that's essentially what we're doing. We're exploring questions like that. All of these questions about what's right, wrong, good, bad, etc.